Hello, everyone. Welcome to the new episode of the Fidinam Podcast. My name is Phương Thao from Fidinam, a Swiss company supporting foreign investors and entrepreneurs in doing business in Vietnam. Today, we have the pleasure of hosting Mr. Stephen Nguyen from ARMS Vietnam, who will share his expertise on the challenges and strategy for hiring in Vietnam. Welcome, Stephen. Thank you for joining us today. Before we start our discussion today, could you please introduce a bit about yourself and tell us about your roles at ARMS Vietnam?
Morning, Tao. Thank you for having me here at the Fidinam office. My name is Stephen Nguyen. I'm a country manager of IM International Vietnam. We are part of, network of IM International. We have over 50 offices in the world. IM was founded in 2018 with a mission is to try to understand the human value, the human factors. So we are a leading executive search using a very special assessment tool and methodology to try to understand the people. One of the first the top challenges for employers today, actually looking for the candidate, is how do you find a great fit for the culture and the value in that candidate? And, by providing our own methodology and assessment, we make sure that we understand the candidate. We do a lot of methodology and assessment, try to understand where they're from, what their background, to deep dive into their personality, to make sure that we understand beyond the CV that just passing, which is a traditional way right now in Vietnam market, they only pass CV and without understanding the people.
Thank you for that introduction. Now we can dive into our main topic today. As you have just shared with us, as a part of ARMS International, ARMS Vietnam has been assisting many foreign companies in researching and looking for talents in Vietnam. In this matter, and based on your real-life experience, what are the key challenges that foreign companies face when hiring in Vietnam?
One of the biggest challenges that, foreign company coming here is the cultural differences. The culture in Vietnam, like I'm saying, a lot of people think that, Vietnam is like any other country. They assume that it's going to be the same with China, same with Japan and Korea. But the cultural differences are huge. To understand the cultural differences, by that I mean, there's hierarchy, power, there's a communication style, and the various factors. But it's one of the most challenging factors that foreign companies find very challenging when they come to Vietnam to hire a person.
It's like navigating the local working culture sometimes can be quite complex. Can you elaborate a bit on how the communication style and hierarchies play a role in the challenges?
Communication in Vietnam is very indirect. For example, you would ask the employees to have a meeting, right? And you ask if they agree or not. Most of them would say yes, but without understanding that it's yes or no. They're just afraid of telling you no. So everybody knock their head and it's like, oh, yeah. And then later you ask them, okay, so where does the process go? And they say, oh, I didn't understand this. They're afraid of speaking directly to the boss. They tend to have like a hierarchy power. So, for example, if the boss saying this is a target, and what do you think about it? Most of people would knock their head and say, oh, we agree, and that this and that. And now they go out and they chat to each other. It's, oh, the number is quite challenging. There's no way we can get it. The communication in Vietnam is quite indirect, and people are more subtle. They don't try to confront you. They don't try to understand you right away. They don't try to say yes or no. So they usually take a step back and talk to each other rather than just direct approach like a lot of Westerner come to Vietnam.
I do agree with you that there's a lot of, the numbers of problems, challenges, also difficulties for foreign company, but also for local company when utilizing Vietnamese employees. But in addition to the challenges that you have just mentioned, I do believe that there must be a lot of good aspect of the Vietnamese employee that foreign company can benefit from. If you agree with me, could you highlight some strength of local employee to our listener?
I guess, Vietnamese are very entrepreneurial. They would work extra miles. I'm not sure it's a good thing or bad, but they would have 8 hours working. And then you find out sometimes that they have business at home. They're selling online. They're doing something. But the entrepreneurial spirit, meaning that they're willing to go extra mile. If you have a startup company looking for a Vietnamese talent, then it's perfect because they're willing to find creative way to do things. They always especially the Gen Z now. They are looking for a different way to achieve things. They don't care too much about the complexities of the job, but they try to find a creative way to achieve it. Also, Vietnam is, interesting enough, it is ranked second in Southeast Asia after Singapore only in PISA. Have you heard about PISA?
Yeah, I did it.
So PISA is actually a program international assessment to evaluate how students learn in school and how they can apply it to the real job. They can use that knowledge. So Vietnam ranked second, and we are very high literacy rate in Vietnam. We was encouraged, all the Vietnamese students were encouraged to study at a very young age, to try to push forward, go to university, learn things, and try a different approach. If you enter Vietnam, you're looking for somebody to work in those science and technical skill. I mean, they are well equipped with a very good background in things they learn in school. So that is another positive side of the Vietnamese workers.
I think you made a very good point when you mentioned about the high literacy rate of Vietnamese employees and also the entrepreneurship rate among Vietnamese employees. In this matter, I would like to ask another point. I mean, another good point of Vietnamese employees is that they are incredibly hardworking and responsive. And because you are here in Vietnam, we know well that they are often willing to extend their working hour as the company, to stay with the team, to stay with the manager to solve the problem. And particularly in the big city, this dedication is more pronounced. Why in the big city like Ho Chi Minh City or Hanoi City, many employees coming from other province. So they work hard not only to make a living, to earn for a living, but also to support their family back home. So that's why they have that kind of hardworking styles and this strong work ethics and sense of responsibility truly stand out in Vietnam. That is for the good point of Vietnamese employee, and saying thanks for your sharing. And now let's shift our focus a bit. I wanted to talk to you about the recruitment practice in Vietnam, which is your major activity in Vietnam. In this matter, we have to recognize that language barriers and employee retention still remain the challenges for not only for foreign company but also for local employer in Vietnam. Could you please let me know, give me more insight on how the communication barriers, how the employee retention affect the hiring process in Vietnam?
Well, I guess in Vietnam, we are quite in a fast-moving industry. Apparently, over 90% of all the people out there are looking for a job, either passively or indirectly, or they want to find a job because of somebody indirectly approaching them. So everybody looking for the opportunity here in Vietnam. The high retention rate doesn't mean that they got a really bad pay, but it depends on a lot of elements. Nowadays, I think that in the market that I'm seeing is like flexibility and the work-life balance is more the factors for them to consider to change job. So a lot of people not getting promotion because they think that they have no life at home with their wife and kid. A lot of people have to travel 45 minutes on the bike from Phú Mỹ Hưng District 7 to Tân Binh. So that is a factor that when they consider when, they get an offer from somebody. And funny enough, because you talk about the language barrier, right? The one that interview with you with a really good English doesn't mean that he will do a good job. He just have advantage of better language skill because, they be able to persuade you. That's why at AMS International, we do a throughout assessment to try to make sure that we vet the candidate very carefully. We have what we call step 33s, which is 33 characteristics and personalities. So we test the communication skill, we test the entrepreneurial spirit, we test about their impulsiveness. So at the end, what you see is not all there is. Our judgment and bias sometimes is, we don't understand what we're thinking sometimes. And most of the interview we do, I think in our industry, it's 10 seconds. It takes 10 seconds for a recruiter to make a decision whether you like the person or not. And after that 10 seconds, they spend the rest of the time confirming the first 10 seconds, whether you have a nice suit, whether your perfume smell good or not. And they base on that fact and they try to work in their brand instead of listening to what you're saying. So they already have a confirmation in their head. There's a lot of way to do interview. But I mean, for us, I think that without assessment, You cannot track your judgment. You can use the judgment at the end when you look at factual and the test that we do. Otherwise, what you're feeling is not right.
When it's come to employee retention, in your opinion, what strategies can a company implement to improve the employee retention in their company?
There's not an initiative like I mentioned. Number one for everybody to work is the salary, right? But outside of salary, will you offer flexibility that they work at home or they go to work? Nowadays, after the few years of COVID, people starting coming back to the office, the physical office more and more compared to, I think, last year. I see a lot of my colleagues, my friends come back to the offices. One of the strategy is try to understand and do a lot of survey, understand what your employees want. It's not what you want, because employees now are working, the perception and the behavior change so quick from the visible force that after COVID, they now enjoying the flexibility. And if they don't have that flexibility anymore, they wouldn't want to stay in a job. In Singapore now, I mean, I think in upcoming months, there's a law passing that employer have to consider employees to actually allow them to have the hybrid work at home. So some country are passing law to providing this flexibility, to actually forcing the employer to look at the employee and say that, okay, now it's obligated. It's not just something that you need to consider. So flexibility, one thing, and work-life balance. Okay, so now they don't care about your gym fee or free candy or free food anymore. I think they're more valuable the time. So the time being with their family. So whether you give them a flexibility, you work at home, or you have more holiday, you give in to them. Apparently, Vietnam right now, we don't have a lot of holiday compared to Cambodia. Cambodia in Southeast Asia have, I think, what I know is from annual leave and holiday, they have 46 days compared to us. So I mean, so we work really hard, and sometimes our law here allow us to work 48 hours a week, which is 6 days a week, 8 hours a day, which is crazy because the practice is a lot of people finish work on Friday, but they know they're going to have a Saturday, right? So say, oh, okay, well, maybe I should leave in a Saturday morning, I'll do it. So the productivity is not there, instead of just say, okay, well, Monday to Friday, that's it. So there's a lot of things that you can do, but the most important thing to listen to your employees, to actually try the creative way to give them flexibility, to accommodate them, to work with you.
Thank you. That seems to be a great way in order to have the good relationship with the employees and improve the productivities of the employees in your organization. Moving forward, because you already talk about the tendencies of employees after COVID-19. I would like to dive deeper in this. I would like to hear from you as an expert about what are the important factors that employees in Vietnam consider when they choose a job. So in your experience, in your opinion, what are the key priority for the job seeker in Vietnam when they choose their roles?
Yeah, like I mentioned before, surely the competitive salary would be number one factors as always. But also, like I mentioned before, the flexibility, the work-life balance that they have, you got to be able to provide the option for them. Look at the untraditional way to do recruitment, because right now, there's more challenge to do recruitment than to retain people. So for us, for our business, I think that if you do a recruitment right in the beginning, you don't need to do a lot of training, because the people you select is the right person, and you can do thing on your own. So I guess just gotta provide more insight, more training on how to do recruitment, not just look at the way that the traditional market do, is just providing CV as fast as possible and very transactional. So we tend to look at the human factors, try to understand the candidate and understand the culture. Those factors will attract more talent. And with the talent strategy, people got to understand that it is a people business. We always talk about people, but without understanding what the people want, what the people need, how can you deliver? Now the employee is very straightforward. What I get for what I'm done, what I get, because I give you this, you give me that. It's very straightforward. So you got to be able to listen. You got to be able to, stay on the employees' opinions.
Absolutely. I can't agree more. on the importance of balancing between work and life. Work and life is becoming something more and more crucial in our day, where the people try to maintain their well-being. And also your points on salary, career progression, and also for flexibilities, also spot on and reflects what many people are looking for in their career life today. To conclude our discussion today, do you have any advice to give to our listeners if they have the demands, if they are looking for a talent in Vietnam?
Try to work on the people that you're recruiting. Try to understand them rather than just do a quick recruiting process. Try to do it slower, because at the end is you get a person that stay with you like a good amount of time, and it's a good investment. I would suggest also to implement some sort of assessment and methodology when you do recruitment, because without it, all you see is all there is. It's like, it's not true. We don't understand our brand. And sometimes we lie to person because of, because he wear a good suit. He speak good, but it doesn't mean anything. So for us is, my suggestion is try to do a lot of assessment and methodology. Try to understand the candidate. Try to understand the company value. So for us, when we recruiting for our company, the top 3 value is we very emphasize on the growth. So we want people to grow, and we want people with a high empathy. So the empathy is the most challenged one. But I mean, people with high empathy are more patient to work with people. Especially in Vietnam, you need a lot of patience to work with Vietnamese employees. And then the entrepreneurial spirit. So based on that value, we assess if the candidate would have that value to work with us. So without understand all of this, you cannot hire, just look at the CV. It doesn't matter what the CV say.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you for sharing your insight and perspective with us. Clearly, that's navigating, respecting the local working cultures and implementing effective hiring strategies are the key to the success for any employment relationship in Vietnam. And thank you very much for being here today. Thank you for sharing all the real life experience and all the advice to our listener today. So we wish you all the best. Wish you great health and success in everything you do.
Thank you very much. Bye, Thao.
To our listener, thank you for joining us today. Stay tuned for our next episodes where we continue to bring you expert advice and strategy for doing business in Vietnam. Thank you and see you again.